What's going on, YouTube? RDAP Dan here, Federal Prison Time Consulting. Hope you guys are all having a great start to your week. What is it? Wednesday. Happy hump day to everybody. We'll give everybody a few minutes to join us. We're going to be discussing today how much time will you actually serve in federal prison? And obviously that answer can be varied based on different circumstances and different factors. So we'll give everybody a little bit of time to join in. If you haven't done so, please take this moment to subscribe, like, and share. Forewarning, I may have to answer my phone for a minute because I have food that could possibly be coming to my house. So I need to make sure I answer the phone if they try to deliver it. Other than that, I'm all yours. Let us know who's in the room. We got Juan L. What's going on, Juan? Welcome. Happy Wednesday. Happy hump day. This should be, I actually did this video a long time ago, years back. I forgot how long ago it is, but here's a link. Oh, that's not it. I'll grab the link to the original video, which is also in the description of this. What's going on, Kevin? Club Fed, what's going on, Sean? Sean, I spoke to somebody that you spoke to that I guess you gave my number to, so I appreciate that. Let's see here. See if I saved this. All right. So here's a link to basically the same content we're talking about today. And this was an older video I did. This was one of probably the first videos I did back way when I was still in the federal halfway house. I was about 30 pounds lighter. I was a skinny fit Dan. Now I'm getting to be chunky Dan. But we're going to talk about how much time you're actually going to serve in the BOP, and we'll give you kind of an average case scenario versus like a worst case scenario. And then of course we'll talk about the best case scenarios and some of the things that you can do to improve that. If you are interested in a consultation and finding out what you might qualify for, maybe some of the questions I'm going to have or some of the topics we're going to talk about today, if it doesn't apply to you or you're not sure about your situation, please feel free, book yourself a free consultation with this link that I just posted in the live chat. It's also in the description of the video. Again, the consultation is absolutely free. And while we're on that subject, all of our clients, so the link that you use to book your consultations and to put yourself in our system is different than the link you would use if you're a client. If you're a client, we give you a separate, a VIP link basically, so you can book a call with me anytime you want, and that's booking a call directly with me. And if it happens to be some sort of an emergency, and this is what I was talking about, Scott, this is exactly, this is what I was kind of getting to here. Scott's asking why I didn't return his call. Scott's one of our older clients, and welcome home, by the way, Scotty boy. Scott, I will post the link for you, or you can use the link that I just posted in there. If you use that link, the calls come in so quick and so rapid with the people booking consultations that it's really hard that I try to use the free time that I have in between calls to, either deal with some private stuff, deal with the kids, deal with the dogs, things like that. So if you can use the link, that would be awesome. Scott, if you shoot me a text, if I don't recognize a number, I usually don't answer it. Usually people either leave a message or shoot a text. But Scott, I love you, brother, and I'm glad you're home. It sounds like you're home a little bit early. And we'd love to have Scott come on the show as well to talk about his journey through the BOP. And I know Scott's got stories because Scott's the kind of guy that has stories. Anyway, so today we're talking about how much time am I actually going to serve in the BOP? So let's kind of jump into that. And we'll go ahead and share a calculator here. If any of you have your calculator on your phone, you want to pop out your calculator. I know everybody's probably pretty decent at math, but we are going to, here, let me exit solo. All right, so we'll jump onto the calculator. So this is just a basic free calculator on the internet. I'll see if I can make this guy a little bit bigger for you. So for those of you with horrible eyesight can see. Let's close all these ads. We don't need to see none of that. All right, so let's do basic time here. Has anybody been sentenced and they're waiting to go in? We can use some real-time individuals here, and we can kind of go through your scenario. So I'll wait about 20 seconds for one of you to throw out a sentence that you've been imposed or a sentence that you think you're going to receive, and maybe you're curious as to how much time that you might get on that sentence. And we'll even take some notes here. We got about 10 seconds left. If nobody throws out something, we'll just come up with a sentence, and we'll use How's the pandemic hoax playing out there? John Lennon, the hoax out here, the pandemic hoax out here in Florida. We're lucky to be in Florida, I'll tell you that. Juan says, no, thank God. Awesome. All right, so we're going to go with a basic sentence of, we're going to call it 24 months. And we're not going to factor in RDAP out of the gate. So to know how to calculate your sentence, and we're basing this on good time. All right, so all you need to do, real basic stuff here, guys. This is not rocket science. 24 months times 0.85. That's going to give you rough estimate of how much time you're going to serve, which is 20 months. This is how much time you owe to the BOP. Now, that doesn't counter in if you're going to do halfway house or home confinement. So if you were to, this is actually time you're going to give back to the BOP. So remember, when you're in a halfway house or home confinement, you're still in the BOP, you're still in the Bureau of Prisons. So you're still going to serve that 20 months. The only way this would get shortened up is if you're going to do something like RDAP, or, if you qualify for some other sentence reduction through like a Rule 35 or something like that. But typically, any of you that are going in on a sentence, you're going to serve 85% of your sentence. You're going to hear, my wife served exactly 85% and not including halfway. Correct. So you're going to hear stories that, they've got new rules where you only have to serve 65% of your sentence. None of this is accurate. There are some things for some elderly. If you're an elderly individual, there are some senior programs where you can potentially serve a little bit less after you've served a certain amount of time. If that's a situation where you have questions, feel free to book a consultation and we can kind of talk about that scenario. So now let's talk about how you can slice some of this time up. Now, we all know what good time is, and then we've heard about earn time credits. Juan said state is 65%, and I'm sure that varies state to state and probably has things that factor in, like when you get out on parole and whatnot. But we're going to be strictly talking about the feds today. So 85%, but now let's factor in, let's say you hear the good time, which is 15% good time, which that's given to you right off the rip. So when you get your sentencing and computation, which you can ask from your case manager, the minute you get to prison, you can ask for your sentencing and computation sheet, which is going to show you, it's going to have a breakdown. And I wish I still had mine. I kept mine for the longest time and I lost it recently on the move. The sentencing computation is going to show your full time served if you were to get no good time. It's also going to show what your good time is. And then it'll also give you when your home eligibility dated, which is home confinement. It's going to tell you when you're eligible, which is 10% of your sentence. So if you're sentenced to 24 months and you're given 6 months halfway house, you're not going to serve 6 months on home confinement. You're only going to serve 2.4 of that 6 months of halfway house on home confinement. So let's kind of run that scenario again. 24-month sentence, you get your good time off the top of that, leaves you with 20.4 months. So you have a 20-month sentence. Let's say you get 6 months halfway house. So you go to the halfway house, you have 6 months of halfway house. Once you have 2.5 months left, you can go to home confinement. So it's not 10% of home confinement plus whatever halfway house time they give you. It's one and the same. So if anybody doesn't understand that, you feel free to repose the question and I'll go back over it with you again. Halfway house is worse than prison. In many cases it can be, but if you get your mind right and you're really trying to stay focused and you're doing the right thing, you can utilize the halfway house to your benefit too. You can be at work all day long. Hold on one sec. Give me one. I think never mind. They got it. All right. So sorry, I was checking something. You can really utilize your halfway house time. So you can have a job, which now you're contributing back to your family. You can go home on the weekends, and for 48 hours, you can get weekend passes, which to me, I would rather deal with a little bit of bullshit in the halfway house and be able to go home on the weekends and spend time with my family, sit on my couch. So yes, the halfway house can be rough. I was given 11 months halfway house. And just like many of you that might be going into the prison system, you're going to hear a lot of the inmate gossip. And the inmate gossip is simply, they're going to tell you, as soon as you get a job, they're going to kick you straight to the halfway house or kick you straight to home confinement. And that's only true if you've already reached your 10% date. So for an example, let's say, you had a 120-month sentence and, or 60-month sentence, and you were given 6 months of halfway house on a 60-month sentence, right? And you got 6 months halfway house. So the minute you get to the halfway house, you're already eligible. You're already at your 10%. So technically, yes, you could go straight to home confinement. But if you're given a 60-month sentence, like in my case, I was given a 42-month sentence and I was given 11 months halfway house, I was thinking I'm going to go to home confinement like almost immediately after getting a job. And that wasn't the case at all. I ended up only getting 4.2 months of home confinement. So I just spent the other 7 months in the halfway house, which which was a very rough pill to swallow until I was able to get in there and kind of work the system to my benefit, meaning I got a job where I'd go to work from like 7 in the morning and I would stay at work till like 7 or 8 at night. I was going home on the weekends, and during my job, I was able to finish some of my work very early for the company I was working for. And that's what allowed me to create a lot of the video content that I've created, started the YouTube channel. It's without putting all of this together, the YouTube channel probably never would have taken off, and I wouldn't be talking to you guys today and doing what I do, which I'm very blessed to be able to do what I do. So I definitely say, if you have the ability to go to the halfway house, take advantage of it, because it's not just about you, it's also about your family. Now let's talk about how you can, Scott came straight home. So FLM, that's Federal Location Monitoring. Is that what it stands for, Scott? If I remember correctly, Federal Location Monitoring. So Scott wasn't through the halfway house. He was being monitored through probation, which was a little bit different. And it probably also has something to do with COVID. We're seeing a lot of weird stuff go on with COVID right now. So stuff we're seeing happen today is not necessarily what was happening before, and it's not necessarily what's going to be happening in the near future. But now, if you take in RDAP into consideration, which a lot of you are very interested in RDAP, and it's very unfortunate that so many times a week I have to give individuals some really bad news about RDAP that think they're qualifying for RDAP, especially when there's like gun charges involved, just a felon in possession of a firearm. You didn't have to do anything with the firearm. You didn't have to commit another act with the firearm. But if you get pulled over for a speeding ticket, I was just talking to a guy today who's probably going to become one of our clients, who was pulled over. And it was probably a bullshit illegal pullover. It was some cops that were taking advantage of a man that was driving a very nice vehicle in a not so nice area. And they kind of, profiled a little bit, pulled him over, made up an excuse that came to light later on. So technically it was an illegal pullover, but neither here or there, he ended up taking a plea deal. And there was his girlfriend. There was a licensed gun in the car that belonged to his girlfriend, a registered gun. And he ended up getting, felon in possession of a firearm. And he was being told this whole time that he can get into RDAP. Now, he might potentially be able to get into RDAP, but he's not going to be able to get the time off. So there's a big difference in getting in and getting the time off. So back to getting how much time you're actually going to serve. So we'll go back to a 24-month sentence. And if you're curious, you want to know more about RDAP, we can right here. If you go to our website, federalprisontime.com, or you can go to rdapdan.com. Both of those bring you to the same place. On the website, you have at the top, you'll see where it says RDAP locations. I'm sorry, not RDAP locations. I meant RDAP FAQs. And there's a lot of information here about RDAP, who qualifies, who doesn't qualify. Probably could use to go in here and do a little revamp on the who doesn't qualify. But if you have a gun charge, you're not, and you were a convicted felon prior to this, you're not going to qualify for RDAP. And the other factor is when you talk about how much time you're going to serve, you want to know how much time you're going to get off for RDAP. It really depends on not just the amount of time you're sentenced to, but the amount of time you have remaining when you go into RDAP. So you'll hear, even here, I say, if you're sentenced to 24 to 30 months, you'll earn a 6-month sentence reduction. So let's go ahead and do a mental edit of this right now. If you have 24 to 30 months remaining on your sentence, when you enter RDAP, you can earn up to 6-month sentence reduction. So the problem that many of you might have is, let's say you're sentenced to a 24-month sentence, you're waiting to get designated, you find out where you're going, you find out they have RDAP at that prison, and you're like thinking this is great. You get to the prison, but RDAP doesn't start for another 2 or 3 months, or maybe there's an issue because of COVID. On a 24-month sentence, if you don't get into RDAP almost immediately within the first few weeks, you probably won't get any time off because you won't have enough time to finish the program. But we'll run through all of that in a minute. We'll do the math. So 24 to 30 months, when you enter the program, you can get 6 months off. 31 to 36 months left on your sentence. When you enter the program, you can receive up to 9 months off, and 37 months or more when you enter the program, you can receive up to a full 12 months off. Now let's break it down and do the math so you see why you can run into problems with the 24-month sentence. So again, if you do 24 months times your 0.85, that brings you to, was it 20.4 months. So technically, when they tell you have to have a sentence of 24 months, what they're already calculating your good time out of that. So really, in order to take RDAP, you have to have 20 months left on your sentence to get into the program. And here's why. So 20 months Well, minus the 6 months that you get for taking the program, 20 months off, right? That leaves you with 14 months. Now, it's going to take you roughly about 10 months to do RDAP. So minus the 10 months that you're going to do in the program, that leaves you with exactly 4.4 months left. So part of graduating RDAP also requires that you do what TDAP, the transitional section of RDAP, which you do in the halfway house. It requires that you do a minimum of 4 months of that. So if it takes you a month and a half to 2 months to get in the program, after you finish the program, if you were getting the 6 months off, you're only going to have 2 to 3 months left to do a halfway house, which is not enough time, which would disqualify you from the sentence reduction portion. It actually would disqualify you from RDAP altogether because you need to be able to do TDAP in the halfway house. Other things that will disqualify you is like if you can't go to a halfway house, if you get sentenced to 24 months and it takes you 2 or 3 months to get in, these are things that can cause hiccups. So what we do, and if anybody has any questions on that, this video will be up for replay. You can definitely come and ask questions on that. Now, what we do to kind of increase your chances of success into not just, getting the time off and getting the help you need and getting into RDAP and really minimizing how long you're going to be in prison is, for example, let's say you're sentenced to 24 months and the judge tells you, you're going to self-surrender 30 days from now, 45 days from now. In the next 2 to 3 weeks, you're going to find out where you're going. So let's say you're going to go to Coleman Low, where we know they have RDAP, right? Most of you will probably go to a camp, but we use Coleman as an example. Let's say you're going to go to Coleman Low. Go to Coleman Low. You've got your 24-month sentence. You get there with your good time. You've got 20 months left. And before you even go, what we can do is once you know that you've been designated to Coleman, once we know what your self-surrender date is, we can contact the prison or one of our contacts and find out when the next RDAP class is starting. So let's say your self-surrender date was on, what's today, August 28th. Let's say it was September 30th. Your self-surrender date is September 30th, but let's say the next RDAP class doesn't start till October 30th, which is a month out. So what we would do in that case is we would work with your attorney to have your attorney draft up a motion with explanation as to why you're trying to change your self-surrender date. So you get in there like 2.5 weeks, 3 weeks before that date. So you would go in a little bit later and potentially even earlier. So if your self-surrender date was September 30th and we found out that the next RDAP class starts September 15th, we would probably try to have you change your surrender date to the beginning of September because you want to align yourself with being able, because you have to go in. Your release date needs to show up on the BOP. So many of you, like if you get to the prison today, your release date may not show up for another week. And if your release date isn't there, they can't even interview you for RDAP until your release date is there. So there's a bunch of little moving parts that if you're not really paying attention to all of this, you can think that you've done everything you need to do because you're looking at the basic verbiage of what you read online or what you've heard from, somebody parroting something that they've heard. And it can really be the make or break of what gets you into the program. And then you run into situations like, let's say the judge gave you a 36-month sentence and you think you're going to qualify for RDAP, 36-month sentence. And if we go back here and look at the guidelines right here, and I'll share this so you can see it. If you see where it says 31 to 36 months, you receive 9 months off. So a 37-month sentence, you could receive up to a year off. So if you're sentenced to 36 months, why not have your attorney request that you receive 37 months if you think you're going to qualify for RDAP? Because now you can get that additional time off where you can go from 9 months to 12 months. There's many things that you can do to better prepare. And the problem is so many of us completely leave it up to the discretion and trusting that our attorneys are doing all of this. And unfortunately, a lot of attorneys, nothing against them, this just isn't their area of expertise. This is why you bring in an expert to help you with these things. You want to make sure all this information is articulated in your PSR and the pre-sentence report. You're going to get interviewed. I spoke to another guy today, same guy, actually, the same one that was pulled over and his wife's gun was in the car. He saw his PSR for the first time today, didn't even know that he should get it, didn't know that he was supposed to get it, reached out to his attorney after speaking with me. His attorney sent it over to him, and he's finding all kinds of discrepancies in his PSR that could create problems for him. He's got issues in there with prior charges of where they're only supposed to go back to a certain amount of time, and they went back beyond that amount of time, and they're giving him on the criminal history, he's getting tagged higher on a criminal history, which can affect not just your guideline range, but it can affect what type of security level you get sentenced to. He had no idea that was even there. He would have walked into sentencing not even knowing. There's so many things that if you're not truly paying attention, you're really going to get caught off guard, guys. And you're the one that's going to pay the price. It's not going to be your attorney. It's not going you might think you can come after your attorney or hold him accountable after this, but good luck on getting your attorney to own up to the mistakes that they made. So, the basic math is 85% of your sentence. Now, when you take an RDAP into consideration, you want to first adjust what your good time is. So what you're going to serve with just your good time. So whatever your sentence is minus your good time, then you want to deduct RDAP. It's not the other way around. So on a 24-month sentence, you would do your good time off of that, brings you to 20 months. Then you minus RDAP. My sentence was 42 months and I qualified for RDAP. I didn't get into it for about a month and a half, almost 2 months. I got there in September 23rd. I didn't start RDAP until January. It was like January 15th. Now, if I would have done my homework and I would have went into RDAP right away, I could have received 12 months of halfway house instead of 11 months. So I could have served 1 month less in prison than what I served. I ended up serving 13 months on a 42-month sentence due to RDAP and good time. So I received my good time. RDAP knocked a year off my sentence and 11 months halfway house, which out of that 11 months halfway house, I did 4.5 of that on home confinement. And then 3 years of supervised release, which many of you know that I terminated my supervised release or was approved on termination through a motion to the court to have the judge terminate my supervised release after I served 50%. So when I hit 18 months, filed the motion and it was approved. So my probation was terminated. I pretty much did everything you could do to serve the least amount of time in the best possible situation, minus the extra month that I could have done better if I would have timed RDAP better, knowing when the program started. And I was lucky that it was starting relatively quickly of entering the prison system. If I hadn't known this, or if I had known this, that's an extra 30 days. But if I'd got there and RDAP wasn't starting for another 90 days, there's 3 months extra that I'm going to be doing guaranteed. There's no guarantee that they're going to give you the extra halfway house, but it takes the option even off the table. Anthony, hey, what's going on, Anthony? Guys, go check out Anthony at Tier Talk. He runs a corrections channel, and the guy's just getting better and better with his content. I meant to send you a message on that, Anthony. I've really seen your content being stepped up lately, so congrats, my man. But Anthony's got a great channel over at Tier Talk, guys. You can go look it up. He does good work over there and gets lots and lots of shade, lots of hate thrown his way from inmate mentality. But my channel is from the perspective of an inmate, but it's from the mentality of, owning up what we did, taking accountability and not getting stuck in the past. I talk to individuals that are very upset with their situation and they talk about how they were wronged or the cops shouldn't have been able to pull them over. Yet they're past all of that. They're at a point where they've taken a plea deal and you guys still get stuck in the anger mode, in the anger phase. And that's not doing you any good. It's preventing you from moving forward. The reality is if you did anything wrong at all, that's what gave them the opening, to open the door. If it was a wrongful search and seizure and they found a gun in the car, but they weren't supposed to pull you over to begin with, what were you doing driving with a gun if you have a conviction on your record? It's just playing with danger, playing with gasoline. Some people are naive. They don't realize what a punishment that can be carried with this. And we hear horror stories day in and day out. And yes, I have sympathy for what you're going through, but you really got to look at the beginning of the picture and what could you have done differently going back. And that's really where you have to hang your hat going through this, because if you get stuck in that anger phase of how unfair this is and you keep traveling back in time to that, and many of us will, it's easier said than done to just change that. This is why we create tools and techniques on what you can do to kind of stay in a positive mindset, staying optimistic of your situation and not allowing yourself to dwell on negativity. Part of our coaching process is not just to tell you how to get a shorter sentence and how to prep for RDAP and what your first day in prison is going to be like and how to make a prison pizza. Some of that does play a role, but it's really about the mindset for many of you, because as you guys know, this is not a fast process. You're in trouble today. You may not go to prison for 6 months or 3 years. I've got guys that have been out for quite a while, and that purgatory phase of not knowing what's next, that can be the real daunting, overwhelming experience that many of us have dealt with. So the better you're able to train your mindset to work through this, and how you're dealing with your family and what you're saying to your family and holding yourself accountable and not getting stuck in the victim mentality, can really not just increase your outlook, but it can actually improve what type of sentence you receive. Because when you own it and you kind of just, pop the pimple and you hit this thing head on, and you realize that you're probably the one that played a role that put yourself in the situation, doesn't mean it's entirely fair, but when you open that door, you're kind of allowing in whatever nasty stuff is behind it. So that's the ownership you take. And when you're able to own that and not get stuck in there, it frees up so much of your mentality and your mindset that it lets you focus on what you can actually do going forward on, if you do have to go to prison, how can you best prepare so you can serve the least amount of prison in the best possible situation. And that's what Federal Prison Time Consulting and RDAP Dan and his team does. And that's why we post these videos. That's why we do the free consultations. And that's why I love making videos. And, fortunately for me, it kind of goes right along with my love to be on the spotlight. It's one of my flaws in life that I've always liked to kind of put myself out there and look at me. It's probably why I wore the prison costume into prison. But once I was able to be honest with myself and own that, sometimes I don't mind it. I don't mind liking to be in the spotlight. If it wasn't for that, I wouldn't be doing this. I do try to tone it down sometimes and not get too off on a rant, which I'm probably doing right now. But for those of you that have been following me for the last couple of years, several years now, and the comments that I receive, and the biggest complaint we probably get is, Dan, I shot you a text, call me back. And that's why we really try to, enforce using the VIP text link that we have for all of our clients, because man, sometimes it's impossible to get a call back to everybody. And sometimes the questions are just, something basic, and we can set it up on a consultation. I'd rather be sitting in front of the computer, have your file in front of me, know what I'm talking about, instead of just kind of talking on the fly. Now, if it's an emergency and you send me a text, 911, I just got a crazy call, I need help, that's different. We try to take all of the calls that we can take, but using the systems in place that we have to better suffice to what you need, and tracking and notes and uploading files, guys, we don't want to expand this thing to where it's so big that I have to start hiring people to talk to you guys. I know some other consultants, they've hired, sales guys to actually talk to you guys, instead of the person that you're seeing, or the poster person you're seeing on YouTube. I want to be the person that talks to all of my clients. And I can only do that if I'm doing it in a managed way. So I apologize to some of you that feel a little left behind. Scott, I'm talking to you, my man. But Scott Oler, you've been an amazing client from day one. I know you've been through a lot. It's been a tough journey for you. And I do owe you a phone call. And, this COVID thing has really been frustrating for everybody. It's been stuff I've had to deal with, but calculating your sentence and calculating your time and really kind of running through different scenarios of best case to worst case, these are things you need to know how to do, because this is going to allow you to understand at sentencing, if something doesn't add up, your attorney may not know this. You have to be the one that is bringing this and shedding the light on this. So booking yourself a consultation, we can help you with this. Don't be afraid to ask questions. If we give you a quote and, you're like, yes, I want to move forward with you, but you're having a financial hardship, let me know. There might be something we can do to work out a payment plan, or maybe we have a sponsor that can help out. We don't want you guys to feel like you can't ask for help. A lot of our clients, the white collar types that are going through this, many of them are so proud and embarrassed to ask for any help. They were so used to being in a financial leadership role that if they can't necessarily afford the price of the services, some of you might be embarrassed to say, well, I don't have those type of funds anymore. It's okay. I've been there. We can work something out. We want to make sure you're getting the help that you need. That's the priority, because this goes far beyond, a business plan, as you guys know. So If you have any questions on how to calculate your sentence, if you're wondering how to calculate your points, if you're trying to find out how to calculate your custody level, make sure you're seeing a copy of your PSR. Your PSR is going to show your adjusted offense level after you received your cooperation and after you received points that the feds are hitting you for. It's going to show what your criminal history level is on there. And then based with all that information, you can calculate what your custody level is, which is going to determine what type of facility you should go to, whether it's a camp, low, or medium. And if you don't know how to calculate that, you don't know if it's being calculated correctly. So you need to take an interest in your own situation. No one's going to work harder on this than you. And if it doesn't work out to your benefit and you find out there was things that could have been done that weren't, you're going to be the one sitting in prison for potentially a longer time or a location that you shouldn't be at. And you're only going to have yourself to blame for it while you're pounding your head on the concrete wall. Scott, Dan helped me through my whole sentence, always was there for me. Appreciate that, Scott. I definitely got to call Scott now. Now you made me feel bad, Scott. Thanks. Guys, I'm RDAP Dan, Federal Prison Time Consulting, People Helping People, Communities Method. All my contact information is in the description of this video. Don't hesitate. Book a consultation today because waiting for tomorrow could cost you time. All right, guys, be safe. Love you all. Happy hump day.